Hi guys, this is Sharon at Life with the Tribe. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Today I just wanted to share a little bit with you about how we tackle Shakespeare as a part of our homeschool. I do try to follow the Charlotte Mason philosophy in our homeschool. There is no doubt in my mind that I do not do it perfectly and that there is probably lots of room for improvement. But I do try to follow her, her philosophy, her principles in how we approach education. One area where I have really fallen short over the years is with Shakespeare, and Charlotte Mason definitely believed in the importance of allowing Shakespeare to be a part of the children's literature and study. There is so much of Shakespeare's words and phrases and references that you find in literature, in movies, just in conversation you don't even realize. I'm so sorry, I'm getting sick, so I'm a little just like croaky, froggy here in the throat. So I really wanted to just do better at tackling Shakespeare. Several years ago, when my older kids were younger, I used the Charles Lamb and the E. Nesbit retellings of Shakespeare, and I would just kind of read over those with them. And we even had a time period where I requested some of the Shakespeare plays dramatized on audio. We did that as well. And then I just kind of let that just kind of fade away, and we weren't doing any Shakespeare. So toward the end of 2017, I decided that I really wanted to just try again to incorporate Shakespeare into our studies. So I went with the play that I had access to the most copies of, and that ended up being Romeo and Juliet, which I wouldn't recommend necessarily as your first play, especially if your children are on the younger side. Typically, if you look back over Charlotte Mason's, how she set up the school where she worked and stuff like that, around age 10-ish is when you would start reading Shakespeare. And so Romeo and Juliet is probably not the one that you want to start with. If, say, your oldest is like 10, 11, 12, then definitely start with some of the different plays. But I have teenagers. I have a 10-year-old up to a 16-year-old who is actively reading Shakespeare. I do have younger ones listening in, but so I do have a 10-year-old and up actually reading Shakespeare. And we did start Romeo and Juliet. And yes, there are a couple of places in there where, you know, it can, if you're looking at like a modern translation, can seem a little, you know, but it goes right over their head, some of the comments and stuff. So I wasn't overly concerned about it. My main goal was for them to just follow the plot line and understand kind of what was going on. And so, and then after Romeo and Juliet, we did Macbeth. So since, let's say, September of 2017, we have read 2 Shakespeare plays, and we recently just started our 3rd. The typical guideline with Charlotte Mason is you do 1 Shakespeare play per term. I'm thinking at the rate that we're reading them, we're going to cover more than that, and I'm totally okay with that. So here's how, I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling. So here's how we set up Shakespeare, is I select a play. Currently, we are doing The Tempest, and I'll explain why in a minute. But we're doing The Tempest, and I was just going to plan on reading it aloud just on Fridays during our morning time, but I would hate to be read a Shakespeare play. I would find it extremely boring. So I decided we would just assign parts, and we would read it once a week. But we enjoyed it so much, I decided that we would read Shakespeare every day that we had morning time, which is usually about 5 mornings a week. So we assign parts and we read. Sometimes we only read 1 act, sometimes we read 2 acts, In the Tempest, the scenes, I'm sorry, we read 1 or 2 scenes, but in the Tempest, the scenes are really lengthy, and so we've just been splitting it and reading a half a scene a day. You're talking 5-10 minutes. We have a lot of fun. We probably laughed a little too much in Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth because they are tragedies, and so I don't think they're meant to be humorous, but we are kind of loud and boisterous. And we really have fun trying to play the different roles with our voices and emotions and sound effects and stuff. So it ends up being kind of entertaining, even when it's a tragedy. And I think that's okay too. Let me just do this. The reason we're reading The Tempest is a few years ago I read The Wednesday Wars by Gary D. Schmidt out loud, and you have the main character, Hollingsey Hood, and for various reasons he ends up having to spend the afternoons, like 1 day a week, I'm trying to remember, with his teacher. Everyone else is gone because it's set back in the 60s or 70s, I think, and so his teacher makes him read Shakespeare, so he has to read Romeo and Juliet, and he also ends up participating in a production of The Tempest, and it is hilarious. This book is hilarious, and it's just touching and moving and funny, and it's a great book. It's a great read aloud, or it's a great one to hand to your kids and have them read. Definitely middle school up. My husband thought it was hilarious. I read it aloud, and the whole family just loved it. So I recommend Wednesday Wars immensely, and the follow-up book, Okay for Now, by Gary D. Smith, is good too. But Wednesday Wars mentioned The Tempest, and so my kids were dying to read The Tempest because they just think it's extremely funny and stuff. And so that's what we're currently reading. And I just go to a used bookstore and I buy used copies of it for like $1 a piece, and then I can return them and get credit and get the next play, because I like having a hard copy on hand personally. But so we just read it, and we assign parts, we read it, and then we talk about like what's happening, you know, what did that character mean, why is that important, so that I'm not stressing heavy, you know, academic study, you know, of Shakespeare. No one's writing a paper on it. I'm just keeping it very just lighthearted and enjoyable, and they're following it, and they're catching, you know, the different things about the characters, and, you know, that this guy was just, you know, really foolish, this one was really, you know, hungry for power, you know, they have no patience, things like, so they are taking from it a lot, just in our just very easy and laid back way of studying it. I already have the next play. After we do The Tempest, we're doing The Merchant of Venice, because my 14-year-old several years ago read a retelling of The Merchant of Venice, and she thinks it's hilarious, and so she wants to read that one next. And I figured since we had done 2 tragedies, doing 2 comedies back to back would just kind of help balance us out. So that is how we're doing Shakespeare. Extremely laid back and easy. Is it perfect? Probably not. Is there a better way to do it? I'm sure there is. But this is what works for our family at this season that we're in. We're enjoying it. They're being exposed to Shakespeare and his literature and his language. And we're having an enjoyable time. And they're following the plots. And they're just practicing their dramatic skills as well. So it's just been a load of fun. So if you're not doing Shakespeare in your homeschool, and you've kind of been not tackling it because you thought, I can't handle Shakespeare, that, you know, just get a play. Just get a play and read it with your kids, or, you know, just kind of read it out loud for yourself. And perhaps it won't be as overwhelming or as challenging as you think it is. And sometimes, you know, like, I'm glad sometimes I get these copies, and, like, for example, let me see if I can do this. I'm trying not to make this video super long, but, like, see, I have a copy from the used bookstore where someone was, like, studying it for a class, and so I have all kinds of helpful little notes and highlighting in here, which has been really fun. And my son has a copy that was highlighted in and notes taking, so between me and him, we have you know, some excellent notes to kind of add to our discussion. I will say that if you do read some plays like Romeo and Juliet and stuff, be careful if you get a copy of the play that has a modern translation right on the other side. My son had a copy, which was fine because he's 16, and so I was okay with that. So on one side was the original version, and then on the other side was a modern translation, so there was no doubt about what some of the things that they were saying. So my son made sure he kept that copy so the younger ones couldn't get it and stuff. So you know, so it was all good. So so that's just how we do Shakespeare in our homeschool. And I would love to hear how you guys handle Shakespeare. Do you read Shakespeare? What's your favorite play? I do hope to one day to be able to go see an actual Shakespeare play on stage. I think that would be amazing to see. So I hope that something comes near our in the middle of nowhere area so that we can see that. And so give a thumbs up if you enjoyed The Tempest, and leave a comment, please. Feel free to subscribe. I've been kind of slow in getting some videos up due to technical issues, but I am hoping that I have gotten those fixed, so we shall see. And I'm going to go get me a nice big tall glass of water to wet my throat, and maybe eat the brownies. One of my daughters just made brownies, and the smell is slowly finding its way back here to my room. So I will catch you guys later. Make it a great day. Catch you next time. Bye.